What's good, YouTube, man? It's your boy Trayvon, and I'm back with another video. And today we got exposing Dr. Phil, drugging, kidnapping, and exploitation. Damn, I thought this nigga was a good person.
I show up to the studios and I'm sober, and then they pull me into my dressing room. There was 2 liters of vodka. Being unsupervised by my parents, I drank the entire bottle. Next thing you know, I'm being carried onto the stage because I can barely walk.
Is your teen out of control?
Malnourishing.
Nigga, it's your fault you drank the whole fucking bottle of vodka, idiot. They ain't tell you to drink a whole fucking bottle of vodka. That's why your ass couldn't walk, nigga. You done drank a whole bottle of vodka. Yeah, gotta let a nigga know you drank a cup of water he gave you and now you leaning. Nigga, you drank vodka.
Humiliating.
That's what you supposed to do when you drink vodka.
Screaming at. Sleep depriving.
Dr. Phil is literally kidnapping these children and sending them to these programs where he's making this money.
I never give up, even if it means tracking Gabe down in his own hometown.
Can I ask you for cooperation?
I'm not leaving, bruh.
Damn.
Dr. Phil is a daytime television monster. This man has exploited thousands of people on his show. He has invited drug addicts on and provided them with their drugs of choice before filming. Dr. Phil has also kidnapped teenagers from their own homes to send them to abusive camps. The same programs.
Wait, so I just heard something. He get his niggas. So say a crackhead come on the show. He'll be like, shit, you want a little crack for the show? Come on, want a little crack? Want a little crack?
He's promoting and making money from by sending these addicts and teens to. This man is incredibly corrupt and dishonest. So let's get into it.
My nigga Shalom.
Lately, I've been getting compliments everywhere I go on how great I smell. It's important for me to have a good perfume or cologne on hand. And he does have a doctorate in psychology, but he hasn't been a licensed psychologist since 2006. You guys know him as Dr. Phil, but he wasn't Dr. Phil until Oprah stepped in. Oprah first started working with Dr. Phil back in 1995 because some Texas cattle ranchers sued Oprah for defamation. So she hired Dr. Phil's consulting firm, and ultimately Oprah won. So she liked Dr. Phil after that. She was so pleased with Dr. Phil's
Oprah need to give me a car. I give you some dick.
performance, she started inviting him onto her show, and he came on as a relationship and life expert. And he came onto her show pretty often, giving advice about marriage and divorce and how to parent. But in 2002, Dr. Phil got lucky because Oprah decided to help him produce his own show. Actually, by 2008, the Dr. Phil show was doing better than Oprah's own show. So it
Facts, cause I ain't know that was connected.
was
Ain't
a
gonna lie.
success. Some people would say that Dr. Phil should thank Oprah for his success, but others would say that he should thank the people he's
That nigga teeth fake as fuck. That nigga teeth whiter than him.
exploited through the years
What ain't supposed to be white?
because he has taken so many vulnerable people, thrown them onto stage, and exploited their trauma for ratings. Mia Farrow tweeted out, "There should be laws to protect mentally ill people from TV talk show predators like Dr. Phil, who's exploiting Shelley Duvall for his own gain." So she's referring to a specific episode where Dr. Phil had an actress named Shelley Duvall onto his show, and she was not in the right mental state.
I loved Robin Williams. I don't think he's dead.
Where do you think he is?
Shape-shifting.
It prompted stars like Mia Farrow to boycott today's episode, tweeting, "There should be laws to protect mentally ill people from TV talk show predators like Dr. Phil, who is exploiting Shelley Duvall for his own gain." Meanwhile, Mia's son Ronan also sent out a series of
Hey, child, I'm going through puberty. My beard growing in this shit.
tweets at Dr. Phil. And the daughter of the Shining director Stanley Kubrick also posted an open letter on Twitter, calling the interview lurid and exploitative entertainment.
I'm glad that some people have called out Dr. Phil, but nothing has changed. And at this point, he's been doing this for decades.
Every time you bring a guest on this show, you exploit them and spread whatever.
Dr. Phil looks, the way he different, goddamn. Dr. Phil, what the hell?
Bombs they have to the whole world. You think that's helping
Oh
them?
shit.
Keep
Oh, he's snapping on Dr. Phil's ass.
telling yourself that.
Now back to Shelley Duvall, because Dr. Phil and his team sought her out after understanding that she wasn't doing well and was mentally struggling. So he wanted to get in there and exploit her trauma.
Will you let me get you to the doctor so you can get checked out?
If you so much as attempt to get my moon mole, I'll kill you.
That's Shelley Duvall on today's episode of Dr. Phil. A far cry from the talented actress we saw star alongside Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
What the fuck? How long ago this movie was? They don't look that old. What the fuck?
That's Shelley Duvall on today's episode of Dr. Phil. A far cry from the
She was bad as fuck.
talented actress we saw star alongside Jack Nicholson in The Shining. In the interview, Shelley makes some discomforting claims about her deceased Popeye co-star Robin Williams.
I don't think he's dead.
I want to have you checked out by some really good doctors
I would like that.
for free. I'll pay
If
for
you
it.
promise me that they won't murder me.
I promise you.
So clearly this woman is distressed. And do you think putting this out nationally is going to help her situation? Like, do you think promoting these rumors that, you know, Robin Williams isn't actually dead and things like this is going to help her case? Because it isn't. And Dr.
What if he sent her to a doctor, right? And then that nigga he actually not dead. And the government be like, come here, send her to my doctor. Send her to my doctor. And they kill her shit.
Phil knows that, but he loves it for the shock value. Dr. Phil worked really hard to have Shelley on his show. She was quoted saying that she found out the kind of person he was the hard way, and she even shares that her mother didn't like him either. A lot of people said that she shouldn't have done this interview with him. After the episode went live, Dr. Phil got a lot of backlash, as he should. And Shelley claims that he started calling her over and over again. He actually called her mother, so now he's calling her like family members and not leaving her alone. You would think at this point he would leave her alone, but he probably wanted to have her back on, not only for ratings, but also to fix his reputation, because that wasn't cool of him. And I know he genuinely didn't want to help her, because after he films the show, he just pushes her off to, you know, some facility or some program, and she didn't really want that. So he's not there every step of the way helping.
It'd be way better if you like right there every step of the way, bro.
These people
Going to visit them while they're in the office. Not in the office, but in like a rehab and shit.
and ultimately Shelley got no help. She was just exploited for this interview and honestly made a mockery of, which Dr. Phil should be ashamed of.
But she refused to sign the papers or take any meds. So after 3 days, she was sent back home.
We are now working directly with Shelley's mother and are providing Shelley treatment from a group of local professionals who, due to her refusal to take medication, will use alternative methods to treat her.
Shelley even shared
How
that her
old
mother
Shelley is?
didn't want anything to do with Dr.
Shelley
Phil,
cannot
so
be that
they
old.
were
How
working
old does she
together
look?
to get her help. And that's not the first time that Dr. Phil has misrepresented the truth. We all know that Britney Spears went through it back in 2008, but a lot of people don't understand that Dr. Phil was part of this situation. I guess somehow he got connected to her family and started to talk to them, and at some point actually had a conversation with Britney Spears. So he was getting
God dang, a lot of she bad.
close to them. Dr. Phil got himself in trouble because he decided to go onto TV on the CBS Early Show and speak about the Spears family and Britney's situation. But he's not like one of the family's reps, so he shouldn't be doing that. But he was motivated. He actually planned on doing a special show involving Britney, which would have been
That nigga look high as fuck. That nigga eyes ready.
insane.
I was
But
ready
it
as hell.
backfired because the Spears family called him out. Lou M. Taylor actually told the Today Show that Dr. Phil crossed the line. She was quoted saying, "The family basically extended an invitation of trust for him to come in as a resource to support them, not to go out and make public statements.
According to him, her family had asked him to intervene, but Brittany was not on board, and after Dr. Phil issued public statements about her, her family turned against him too.
The bottom line here is that Dr. Phil no longer has a license to practice psychology because he elected to retire his license. So he has no duty, legal or ethically, to maintain confidentiality in any event.
So a nigga's been trying to pack Dr. Phil up. This ain't nothing new. And he still don't give a fuck
As
either.
we all know, this episode
The nigga still staying on there.
ended up happening. And Dr. Phil had a BS excuse. He claims that this situation's just too intense at this time, and out of consideration to the family, I've decided not to move forward. But they didn't want him to move forward. So there he is again, trying to switch up the narrative of what's really happening here. And what's scary about Dr. Phil is that he's built a reputation of like trust and helping people. Like for me, for instance, I like to think that like I have a trust type of like rapport with you guys. You know, I'm trying to put out like credible information and we're all seeking the truth. But that's just not the case for Dr. Phil. And he's convinced his fan base and his audience to trust him, and they have got themselves in trouble for doing so.
I'm tired of seeing pictures of Dr. Phil, bro. Like, nigga, I'm tired of looking at this
promoted
nigga.
and sold a diet plan on his television show to his audience. He got himself in big trouble for this one. At this point, he was 56 years old, and he decided to jump into the lucrative weight loss market, which is very Oprah of him. He put out advice books, and he had a special with Katie Couric, and he also had some products from his line called Shape Up. Shape Up has shakes, bars, multivitamins, and I guess at some point the plan called for 22 pills a day, which is about $120 a month. They actually
22 pills.
had to stop producing their products because the Federal Trade Commission stepped in and they wanted to launch an investigation into the science behind these products. Because you can't just make open claims and get away with it. The pills claimed that they were scientifically researched and they have ingredients that can help you change your behavior to control your weight.
Business included the usual things like shakes and energy bars, and it was peddled on air by Phil's own family members. When the testimonials are from the creator's family, you know something's fishy. The program was immediately pegged by experts as being total nonsense, and it was shelved in response to an investigation by the Federal Trade Commission.
So his products were a bunch of BS, and the people who spent all this money on them decided to sue him. In 2004, there was a lawsuit filed, and thousands of his customers actually joined the lawsuit because it was fraudulent, that they were claiming that these pills would do something they cannot do, and also claiming that they're backed by science, which you can easily prove or disprove if they have the science to provide. It's really expensive to have research and science produced for a product, so I doubt that there's any science behind any of Dr. Phil's products. And ultimately, that's why he had to pay $10.5 million to his customers, because he lied to them. But don't worry guys, Dr. Phil did not go broke because of this, because he didn't have to pay any of it. I guess he had some insurance that covered everything, so he walked away without any problems. I mean, he probably made a ton of money off of these products.
That nigga's a finesser.
And then the insurance covered him while he was being sued, so he really didn't lose anything at all. And that's not the first time Dr. Phil has tried to mess with our health, because at some point he became a spokesperson for a diabetes drug. First off, there's a conflict of interest because he's I guess a doctor. He's not even really a doctor.
Nigga ain't no fucking doctor. My principal name was Doctor in high school.
But he's now portraying a doctor for a medical product, and that's a problem because some people may not understand that Dr. Phil is not actually a medical doctor who's selling you this product. It's also really dangerous. This drug has a warning that it can increase the risk of thyroid cancer. Here's a little screenshot of some text from the actual drug information, and it claims that you can really get sick from taking this. And it actually turns out that Dr. Phil doesn't even take this drug. He does take another drug because he does have diabetes, but he's not taking the drug that he's selling. He's just getting paid for it. It kind of makes me think about that Chloe Kardashian
I do the
ad
same
for the
thing.
migraine medicine. I see it all the time. Like, do you think she actually takes that? Probably not. I see it all the time. Like, do you think she
Why her lips look unlevel? Like, who I'm bugging?
actually takes that? Probably not. Well, let's talk a little bit more about Dr. Phil's show, because there have been a lot of different mistakes throughout the years which have really tarnished his reputation. He's messed with people's lives in ways that are not okay, and he was actually sued by two brothers because they were framed by Dr. Phil in an episode where he covered the missing case of Natalie Holloway, and he pretty much edited clips in a way to make these two brothers seem guilty.
The brothers later sued for defamation, stating that their segment, quote, was manipulated and later broadcast as being accurate. Specifically, the show had used a hidden camera interview edited to change their responses. The case was later dismissed only 1 week before the trial was to begin. To this day, Holloway's disappearance remains unsolved, and she was declared legally dead in absentia in 2012.
So this nigga, Dr. Phil's an idiot, bro.
If Dr.
This
Phil
nigga do anything for clout. They do anything for clout.
genuinely wanted to find Natalie, then why would he set up this episode to frame these two boys who are clearly innocent? I mean, there's no justice there, and of course Natalie wasn't ever found. And it looks like he wasn't even actually sued for this because the case was dismissed. We don't even really know why the case was thrown out, but there was another person named Joran who was officially named a suspect, yet there wasn't any like convictions or anything like that. So hopefully one day Natalie does get some justice for whatever happened to her. I mean, there's so much like human trafficking nowadays. Like when I see these stories of like missing people who aren't ever found, I just hope to God they're not. I mean, everything sounds horrible, but like human trafficking really sounds like a terrible experience. I could not imagine being in that. Another situation I can't imagine being in is having Dr. Phil lock you in a room and go off on you like you're a child. This former employee named Leah was a segment director, and she actually accused Dr. Phil of false imprisonment for trapping employees in a room to threaten them over leaks to the media. So someone had gone to the press and said some things about the show that he did not like, and he just like treated his employees like his children and punished them.
A former employee named Leah Rothman sued Dr. Phil in 2016 for false imprisonment and wrongful termination. According to her, Dr. Phil grew so enraged after someone allegedly leaked information to the press that he locked employees in a meeting, screamed profanities at them, and threatened them by saying, quote, "If you f*** with
I'll
me,
beat that nigga ass. Fuck.
I'll f*** with you." Rothman
Nigga ain't got no hands, you old nigga.
subsequently went to HR to discuss the issue, only for them to side with Dr. Phil.
What HR gonna do? They below Dr. Phil.
According to Rothman, she was, quote, forced to quit her job, eventually leading to the 2016 lawsuit.
So she had to leave her job, so she decided to go and sue the show and Dr. Phil for wrongful termination. Ultimately, they settled the case, so we don't know what happened there, but the show said that she was just a disgruntled employee and that everything she was saying was false, which I don't think people just make these things up. And this might be a trend for Dr. Phil because he's been accused of holding people captive more than one time. A 56-year-old woman named Shirley was on his show and a part of group therapy, and it was being filmed for a show back in 2007. She claims that she had been held captive and forced to be in the same room with a completely live naked man while he exposed his entire naked body, wiener and all. In court documents, she claims that she was actually at group therapy for her problems with men. So to be at
This nigga evil.
therapy and then to have this man like expose himself and do all this and to be forced to be in that room with him, I mean, that is traumatizing alone. And it seems like Dr. Phil has a skill when it comes to pushing people closer to their problems. Not the solution, but the problems. Another 56-year-old woman, I don't know why he's targeting 56-year-old women, but this woman named Jo Lynn actually went onto the show for her alcohol addiction. And Dr. Phil and his producers made sure she was extremely drunk before going on stage because they're trying to make an entertaining show. I mean, how entertaining would it be if a sober person came on to the show when they have an alcohol problem? You know, we're gonna shove alcohol in their face and make them embarrass themselves so that Dr. Phil looks like he's the savior.
Now, I'm willing to offer you some help here, but you need to look at me and you need to hear me. I know.
That's crazy though. Imagine. So say you're addicted to drink, right? I mean, not drink, liquor, whatever. Nigga give you some liquor, start talking to you about your problems while you drunk.
Because I think you're still in there, and I think you deserve a shot.
I am here. I am here.
I wrote into the Dr. Phil show.
I know you did.
Praying.
You can stay with it. You can stand with it.
It's okay. Praying that.
She don't know shit. What they done gave that lady, man? Warbox. I like games like this, bro. Hold up. My bad, y'all. I like games like that.
That poor woman is clearly distraught. She doesn't have her shoes on. She's jumping out of the chair. She's stumbling. And the entire episode is really bad. I feel super sad for her, and I hope she did get the help that she needed at that time, but it doesn't seem like Dr. Phil is the best person for that. And it's not the first time that he's been accused of getting people drunk before putting them on stage, because there was this guy named Todd. He was actually on the show Survivor, and he appeared on the Dr. Phil show in 2013. He had to literally be carried onto the stage because he was so messed up. Dr. Phil was even quoted saying that I've never talked to someone so near to death on camera before. Like, he claimed that Todd was going to die soon because his addiction was so bad. Yet Dr. Phil and his team were adding to the problem. This was a shocking episode, but when Todd arrived to the studio, he was completely sober and he was with his father. But then he went into his dressing room and there was a bottle of vodka, and then he started to drink. Then someone handed him a Xanax saying that this would help your nerves, so he took that.
So Todd Herzog was on...
Oh my God. Oh God.
Dr.
I won't hurt, bro.
Phil's show because he had an alcohol addiction. And he claims that after he traveled to Los Angeles to be on the show, he went into the green room and found that there was a bottle of vodka there. He also claimed that he was given drugs right before he went on air. Take a look at what he has to say.
I show up to the studio.
I ain't hear nothing she said, bro. I was looking at her pretty ass face.
And I'm sober. I'm hurting a lot, and I'm shaking. My dad was there, and I went and talked to him in his dressing room, and I was completely sober. And then they pull me into my dressing room, and there was 2 liters of vodka and like some Red Bulls and orange juice and stuff like that. You know, being unsupervised by my parents, I drank the entire bottle. And then at some point, somebody gave me a Xanax. They said, this will calm your nerves. And so I had been drinking and took a Xanax, which I've never taken Xanax before in my life.
So Todd was set up. I mean, there's no denying that this was a setup by Dr. Phil and his producer minions. And there's a reason why they do this, because these addiction segments are really compelling. I mean, people watch, they're interested. If you've ever seen the show Intervention, people like to see people in these distressing states. I honestly don't understand why, but it's good for ratings. I guess, like, either makes people like realize or feel empathy or make them feel better about themselves. I don't really know, but it'd be so much better if these like programs were actually intended to help people.
Todd, Dr. Phil.
Hi, I'm Todd.
Next thing you know, I'm being carried onto the stage because I can barely walk.
How drunk do you think you are right now?
An entire bottle of vodka.
Keep going. 0.263. What's going to happen to you if you keep drinking like you're drinking?
I'm gonna die.
So Herzog said that, you know, he showed up to the studios completely sober. His mother was with him and has corroborated that. And, you know, Herzog says that he found the alcohol in the dressing room.
So Dr. Phil gets these people onto his show, he makes them look terrible, and then he pressures them to go to some program or facility to get help. But you've got to be wondering what's in it for Dr. Phil. There's a lot in it for Philip McGraw because he's partners with these companies, so he's making money by sending people there and then bringing up the names of the facilities on the show. It's like free promo, and then he's just making more behind the scenes by like making these people look terrible on his show, sending them there, and then promoting these programs.
Is your teen out of control? The Aspen Education Group can help you get that teen back on track. Now, Aspen's nationwide network of programs has been featured on my show for years, and they can help your family too. Now, you can call an Aspen consultant today to learn more about their outstanding residential and outdoor programs.
So that was a clip of Dr. Phil promoting Aspen, which is a troubled teen industry like facility program situation, which sounds terribly abusive. Aspen Education has been accused of multiple infractions by former attendees, including lawsuits that claimed psychological torture, abuse, sexual assault, and human trafficking. These programs and others are still being promoted by Dr. Phil and on his website. And there's been a lot of troubled teen industry involved content when it comes to Dr. Phil's show. If you guys don't know what the troubled teen industry is, pretty much there are a slew of programs across the United States where these teens who are going through, you know, unfortunate situations, whether they're rebelling against their parents or they're dealing with, you know, childhood trauma and they don't know how to cope. Nonetheless, these kids are in bad places, so they're sent to an even worse place to try to make them better. And at these camps, they make them work, they starve them, they really just break them down. And there's not a lot of people who come out of these programs feeling better. Bad Baby has actually been super outspoken about her experience, and I really praise her for that.
I seen a kid get held down for trying to leave. Malnourishing, humiliating, screaming at, taken there against my will. It's basically like kidnapping. They strip you from your whole personality. Sleep depriving. That's not tough love.
She says that the place that she was recommended to go was abusive to her, wouldn't let her sleep.
One of the kids, he had tried to steal a car or something. Everyone was screaming on the walkies like it was really crazy, and he ended up killing one of the staff members. That's
Feeling lonely and looking for a significant someone, but dating sites don't work for you.
all I said was that they wouldn't let me sleep. That's the only accusation. I just said, oh yeah, and they wouldn't let me sleep. It was so bad.
When Danielle Bergoli, aka Bad Baby, said that this is like kidnapping, I was like, holy crap, that's what it is. Like, Dr. Phil is literally kidnapping these children and sending them to these programs where he's making this money. And if you look at these videos where like they go and kidnap these like teens, it's like really scary because there are a lot of adults involved with showing up to a teenager's home at like, 3 a.m. in the morning, waking them out of bed and forcing them to go to this place where they're going to be abused.
However we got here, the number one thing is you have to save her from her.
The nigga like, honey, don't you fell at the wall.
Self.
If I want to get out of my bed, let me get out of my bed. I don't care. Get off of me. Get off of me.
Of making bad parental decisions that have put her in this position.
Get off!
At some point, you have to look back and say, I did everything I could to get her out of the life.
You're doing fantastic. No, my phone. We've got it, honey.
Clearly that girl didn't want to go to this program, and there's a great reason why, because she probably already knows what she's getting into. And that's thanks to people like Hannah Archuleta, who have been speaking out and actually sued Dr. Phil and the program she was sent to at a Utah ranch.
Face like
This is
Play-Doh.
one that Bad Baby went to. Hannah was on his show in October 2019, and she was sent to Turnabout Ranch. And at this facility, she was neglected. they were emotionally abusing them, verbally abusing them, and overworking them. But Dr. Phil said that Hannah needed to go to the ranch to have any chance at a good life. So clearly things didn't go well for Hannah, and you can't force help onto someone who doesn't want it, even if they are a teen. And after doing research for this video, I found a bunch of clips where Dr. Phil kidnaps these children and puts them into these programs. And here's one I found really disturbing.
But there was an unexpected turn of events and things did not go as planned backstage, which is to be expected when you are dealing with such a sensitive issue. But I never give up, even if it means tracking Gabe down in his own hometown.
I don't know if you guys noticed that, but there's literally an ad for the rehab program right at the beginning of this clip. And when they went to go and pick up this boy who did not want to go, it did not end well. They are treating these kids like they are criminals, which is not the way to go about this. A lot of them are acting out because they've gone through, a divorce at home or some childhood trauma, and punishing them for, pretty much a cry for help isn't going to solve anything.
Facts. That is facts, my nigga. Why you all up in the camera and shit?
To Gabe's home.
You think he's gonna freak on me? I think he's gonna be kind of like groggy sleeping.
About why later.
Nah, I'm not going, bro. Please. You already know, bro. You've done this before.
We're leaving right now. Can I ask you for cooperation?
I'm not leaving, bro.
Stop resisting, Gabe. We'll loosen him in a minute.
Oh, what's up, bro? I'm not going nowhere, bro. I'm sleeping. Why you guys pull me on my outside?
Man, that man
The show
chilling.
continues to cross the line by sending
That should be illegal, bro. Nigga pulled the kid out of the
these
bed.
kids to these programs, taking them out of their homes and putting them in such a terrible place. But
That's
it's not
crazy.
the first time that the Dr. Phil
Holding
show
a
has
nigga down,
crossed the
putting him in
line,
handcuffs
because
in
at
his
some
own
point,
room.
they actually bailed out a criminal because they were invested in the story. So in 2008, this girl was arrested for beating another person, and the video went viral on the internet, so Dr. Phil decided to get involved. This video got national attention because there were multiple people going after one person, and this video was posted to MySpace, and that's where I guess it went viral. Turns out that a lower level production assistant coughed up $30,000 for the bond of this girl who attacked another. When caught on camera, he told other news reporters trying to interview his prized catch that we have exclusivity. So they literally bailed out this criminal because they wanted to get the story on what had happened, and when they were like kind of confronted with it, they were like, oh no, you can't take our prize, like this is our treasure, we paid for this.
This is a fantastic example of the show chasing guests. Back in 2008, a producer for the show bailed teenager Mercedes Nichols out of jail for $30,000. Nichols was one of 8 teenagers who had been arrested after viciously beating another teenager and filming the altercation.
Supposedly they updated their policies after this, but that's just like a bunch of corporate lingo for, we're gonna act like it didn't happen.
However, the show decided to drop Nichols from their program following a public outcry. According to the show's spokeswoman, quote, certain staff members went beyond the show's guidelines in bailing a criminal out of jail. Terry also stated that the employees were spoken to and that the show's guidelines were reiterated. So nothing really happened then?
But something I was surprised about was how often Dr. Phil's son is also involved in lawsuits. Jay McGraw was sued by a fitness instructor named Holly, who created a gym program geared towards women called Pink Iron. Holly claims that Jay approached her and wanted to license her brand for next to nothing in exchange for a ton of publicity on his father's show. Holly claims that Jay promised that my dad will market the shit out of Pink Iron. So she actually agreed to the deal because like Dr. Phil promoting your gym all the time, I mean, that sounds great. The deal was all set in place, but then Jay backed out and partnered with a different company called Pink Method. And it actually seems like he took Holly's business idea and then just stole it and called it Pink Method and acted like it was his own. So she sued him for breach of contract. It sounds like they settled when it comes to that case, but there's another case I found that involves his son, which really mimics how Dr. Phil
At the same time, his son don't got shit to do with what. I mean, Dr. Phil don't got shit to do with his son. Trying to finesse.
behaves. Dr. Phil's son, Jay McGraw, accused of humiliating guest on TV show, which, father like son, huh? Dr. Phil's son has been accused of destroying a man's life after tricking him onto a show to exploit a condition that left him with a disfigured penis. His name is Tyler, and he's 24, and he went to Jay's production company called Stage 29. It looks like Jay convinced Tyler to go onto the show The Doctors and would pay for his surgery onto his wiener. God, it's so... If he were to go onto the show, yeah, and do a, an appearance. So we'll fix what's going on down there if you come onto this program and pretty much embarrass yourself, which he did ultimately agree to. But Tyler actually filed this lawsuit because Jay went against some HIPAA violations, because I guess he took this condition and ran with it to the production teams and really tried to pitch what was going on with Tyler. I'm glad that he went and sued because they really did embarrass him. They created a fake letter that he supposedly wrote to get onto the show, and they really judged up the story to make it worse for him. So
that's how most of these shows be, bro. They make this shit trying to make it more
I'm glad
interesting.
that he's defending himself. But before we close out this video, I do want to mention that Dr. Phil has a weird house. He has a $5 million home that has a staircase with snakes on it, and he has a dining room with guns in it, and just super weird decor. So I want to share that with you guys in case you haven't seen it before.
The fuck that gotta do with me?
Link in my description below for Simford.
What the fuck that nigga house got to do with me? You tripping, shorty? On, bro.